The Velar Dominion had ruled the Orion Arm for 3,000 cycles. Their crystalline warships cut through the void like shards of frozen ambition, each one a testament to their technological supremacy. They had conquered 17 star systems, absorbed 43 species, and cataloged every anomaly in their sector of space. Their archives contained the sum of galactic knowledge, or so they believed. In the grand amphitheater of their capital world, Counselor Tharnix stood before the assembly of minds, his chitinous form gleaming under the cold blue lights. His primary manipulator appendages gestured with practiced authority as he addressed the gathered elite. Fellow Dominion leaders, his translated voice echoed through the chamber. Today we address a matter of historical curiosity and profitable conquest. The Sol system. A holographic display materialized above the assembly floor, showing a yellow star orbited by 8 worlds. One planet, third from its sun, glowed with an eerie blue-green light. For millennia, the lesser species have whispered myths about this place, Tharnix continued, his vocal membranes rippling with amusement. They speak of humans, a species that supposedly ruled this sector before our ancestors first split the atom. They claim these humans built wonders, that they touched the stars with primitive chemical rockets and dreamed of empire. Laughter rippled through the assembly, a discordant sound of clicking. Mandibles and whistling respirators are. Archaeological surveys have found evidence of rudimentary structures on nearby worlds, Tharnix went on. Mining colonies on their moon. Failed habitats on the 4th planet. But the homeworld? He paused for effect. Silent. Dead for at least 10,000 cycles. Yet the legends persist. Some backwater civilizations even worship these humans as gods who will return to pass judgment on the unworthy. More laughter. The very concept was absurd to the logical Velar mind. I propose, Tharnix declared, his voice hardening, that we end these superstitions forever. We send a fleet to Sol. We strip the system of its resources. We prove that humanity, if it ever existed, was nothing more than another failed species, crushed beneath the weight of their own inadequacy. Let the galaxy learn that only the strong endure, only the Dominion is eternal. The vote was unanimous. Fleet Commander Jalvor watched the view screen from the bridge of the Absolute Certainty, his flagship and pride of the 5th Expeditionary Force. 12 warships accompanied him, enough firepower to sterilize a dozen worlds. For a dead system, it was excessive, but the Dominion did not believe in half measures. Approaching the heliopause, his navigation officer reported, Sol system boundary in 30 units. Jalvor's sensory stalks twitched with satisfaction. This would be a simple mission. Survey claim exploit. Perhaps he would even find intact human artifacts, curiosities to display in his personal collection, proof of his triumph over myth. The fleet crossed into Sol's domain. That's when the transmissions began. At first, they were barely perceptible, faint electromagnetic whispers that tickled the edge of their sensor arrays. The communications officer initially dismissed them as stellar noise, but the whispers grew louder, clearer, and then, impossibly, they resolved into voices, human voices. We remember Arrogance. The words repeated in a language that none of the Velar had ever heard, yet their translation matrices decoded it instantly, perfectly, as if the message wanted to be understood. We remember those who came before you. We remember those who came with pride. Jalvor's chitin plates contracted, an involuntary sign of unease. Trace that signal, he ordered. It's everywhere, Commander, the communications officer replied, his vocal membranes quavering. The signal is coming from every direction, from the star itself, from the planets, from the empty space between. We remember their ships. We remember their silence. A chill, metaphorical but no less real, crept through the bridge. The Velar were a logical species. They did not believe in ghosts. Yet here in the darkness of space, dead voices spoke. Maintain course, Jalvor commanded, suppressing his unease. All ships battle-ready formation. This is clearly some automated defense system. Ancient technology, nothing more. But even as he spoke, his tactical display flickered. One of his scout ships, the Sharp Inquiry, vanished from sensors. No explosion. No distress call, simply gone. We remember Arrogance. 2 more ships disappeared. Then 3. The remaining vessels broke formation, their commanders' disciplined minds fracturing under the weight of an impossibility. You cannot fight what you cannot see. You cannot strategize against nothing. Jalvor watched his fleet dissolve like ice beneath an alien sun. His primary hearts hammered against his thorax. This was not supposed to happen. The Dominion did not lose. The Dominion did not fear. On his view screen, Earth hung in the distance, that blue-green jewel. Peaceful and serene. Beautiful. Deadly. The last thing Jalvor heard before his own ship fell into darkness was a whisper, soft as starlight. "Welcome home, children of Arrogance. We have been waiting." News of the 5th Expeditionary Force's disappearance sent shockwaves through the Dominion. Counselor Tharnik stood once again before the assembly, but now there was no laughter. Only silence, heavy, suffocating. "We must respond with overwhelming force," one counselor insisted. "Send 10 fleets. 100. Show this anomaly that the Dominion cannot be threatened. And if they disappear too," another challenged. "Do we send 1,000? Do we empty our entire military to prove a point to ghosts?" Tharnix's manipulators clenched. Pride warred with pragmatism in his neural clusters. The logical choice was obvious: avoid Sol, quarantine the system, focus on expansion elsewhere. But logic had built the Dominion. Pride had sustained it. "We send another expedition," Tharnix decided, but this time with specialized equipment. Deep-range scanners. Gravitic sensors. "We will pierce whatever veil hides humanity's defenses. We will expose their secrets, and we will prove that the Dominion bows to nothing, not even ghosts." The assembly voted. The motion passed, but in the darkness between stars, Earth waited, patient, aware, and beneath its oceans something ancient stirred at last, responding to the call of arrogance with the promise of judgment. The 2nd Expeditionary Force entered the Sol system with none of the confidence of the 1st. Commander Vexthin, a veteran of 20 campaigns, kept her sensory stalks rigidly focused on the view screens. She had handpicked this fleet, 8 heavy warships equipped with the most advanced scanning technology the Dominion could produce. If humanity had left traps, defenses, or automated systems, she would find them. "All ships maintain tight formation," she ordered. "Sensors at maximum sensitivity. I want to know if a single atom moves out of place." Her science officer, a young Veiler named Pratham, worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm detecting residual energy signatures throughout the system. They're strange, not matching any known technology. Elaborate. The signatures are organic and mechanical simultaneously, as if..." He paused, struggling with the impossibility of his own readings. "As if biology and technology have merged at a fundamental level. The distinction between living tissue and circuitry doesn't exist in these readings." Vexthin's primary hearts skipped a beat. Merged biology and technology. The theoretical pinnacle of advancement. Something the Dominion had pursued for centuries without success. If humans had achieved it... "We remember Arrogance," the whisper came again, soft and pervasive. "We remember those who come seeking answers. Seeking to understand what they are not prepared to comprehend." "Ignore the transmissions," Vexthin commanded, though her chitin plates rippled with suppressed fear. "Continue toward the 3rd planet. Deploy all sensor drones." Dozens of autonomous probes shot forward, racing ahead of the fleet toward Earth. For several moments, their data streams remained clear. Atmospheric composition, magnetic field strength, radiation levels, all normal for a life-bearing world. Then Earth's oceans began to move. Pratham's station erupted in alarms. "Commander, I'm detecting massive displacement events in the planet's hydrosphere. Something is rising from the ocean floors. Multiple signatures. They're gods of the void. They're enormous." The view screen magnified, focusing on Earth's Pacific Ocean. The water churned and frothed as if boiling, though thermal readings remained stable. And then, breaking through the surface like the finger of an ancient god, a structure emerged. It was impossible. It was magnificent. It was terrifying. The fortress, for what else could it be, rose kilometer after kilometer into the sky. Its surface was a seamless fusion of metal and something organic, pulsing with bioluminescent veins that glowed with soft blue light. Geometric patterns covered its hull, mathematical perfections that hurt to look at, as if they contained equations the Veiler mind was not equipped to process. "Diameter, 20 kilometers at the base," Pratham whispered, his voice breaking. "Height still increasing. 30 kilometers, 40. Commander, this structure is larger than our capital city, and it's still rising. More structures breached the oceans, dozens of them, hundreds, each one a titan of merged flesh and steel, each one adorned with those maddening geometric patterns. They did not float. They stood as if the ocean floor itself had given birth to monuments. Vex then watched in horrified awe. The structures predated the Dominion by millennia. Her sensors confirmed it. 10,000 cycles minimum, perhaps 20,000, perhaps more. They had been waiting beneath Earth's waters since before the Veiler had discovered fire, silent and patient, for someone to be foolish enough to disturb their rest. "We remember the empire that laughed," the voices said, and now Vexthin could hear dozens of distinct speakers, hundreds, thousands. All human, all speaking in perfect unison. "We remember the counselor who called us myths. We remember every species that forgot us, that dismissed us, that believed themselves superior." "Retreat," Vexthin ordered, her voice steady despite the terror coiling through her neural clusters. "All ships full reverse thrust. We leave this system immediately." But her navigation officer's response chilled her to her core. "Commander, we're not moving." "What?" "Our engines are firing at full power, but we're being held in place. Some kind of gravitational lock." "No, not gravitational, something else. Something we don't have terminology for." On the view screen, one of the colossal structures turned. It moved with the grace of something alive, its attention focusing on the fleet like a predator noticing prey. Apertures opened along its surface, not weapons ports, but something far more unsettling. Eyes, thousands of eyes, human eyes. They stared at the Veiler ships, and in that gaze was the weight of civilizations, the memory of empires that had risen and fallen while humanity slept. There was no anger in those eyes, no hatred, only recognition, assessment, judgment. "You came to prove we were nothing," the voices said. "You came to mock the dead. But we are not dead, children of arrogance. We have never been dead. We have only been waiting." Pratham's claws trembled over his console. "Commander, I'm receiving a data transmission from the structures. It's their history. They're showing us what happened to humanity." The view screen shifted, displaying images that bypassed their optical sensors and imprinted directly onto their consciousness. Vexthin saw Earth, vibrant and teeming with billions of humans, their cities of glass and steel, their ships that first touched the stars with primitive fusion drives, their wars, their art, their endless, restless drive to transcend their limitations. She saw the moment of transformation. Not a singular event, but a gradual evolution spanning thousands of years. Humans merging with their technology bit by bit, cell by cell, until the distinction between person and machine became meaningless. They did not upload their consciousness. They expanded it, growing beyond flesh while retaining everything that made them human. She saw them build these fortresses, not as weapons, but as archives. Repositories of memory, guardians of Earth, and testaments to what they had been, what they had become. And then she saw them leave, spreading into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as observers, watchers, students of the younger species that would inevitably arise. She saw them return to Earth periodically, merging with the fortresses, adding their experiences to the collective memory. 10,000 years of observation, 10,000 years of watching species rise, grow arrogant, and fall. The pattern repeated endlessly, predictably, and through it all humanity remembered. Remembered their own arrogance. Remembered the mistakes that had nearly destroyed them. Remembered the cost of pride. The vision faded. Vexthin's sensory stalks drooped with the weight of understanding. "We do not hate you," the voices said, and now there was something almost gentle in their tone. "We understand you. We were you once, young, proud, certain of our superiority. We too laughed at the civilizations that came before us. We too believed ourselves eternal." The fortress, the consciousness within it, pulsed with light. Around the fleet, space itself seemed to ripple as if reality was holding its breath. But we learned. We evolved. And now we remember. We remember all those who came with pride. Some learned humility and were allowed to grow. Others, the pause stretched into eternity. Others chose to remain arrogant. Those empires are dust now, forgotten by everyone except us. We remember them all. Vexthin understood the choice being offered. Return home. Tell the Dominion what dwells in Sol. Accept humility or face the judgment of beings who had transcended the very concept of death. Release my ships. she said quietly. We will leave. We will tell our people what we've seen? Will they listen? The voices asked. Or will pride demand they send more fleets? More weapons? Will they choose wisdom, or will they choose dust? Vex then had no answer. She knew her people. She knew their pride. The gravitational lock released. Her ships were free to go. As the fleet limped back toward Dominion space, Vex then looked back at Earth one final time. The fortresses were descending, returning to their ocean beds, slipping back into patient silence, waiting, always waiting, for the next arrogant species to test the depths. The Dominion Council chamber had never known such discord. For 3 cycles, the Assembly of Minds had argued, debated, and fractured along ideological lines. Commander Vexthin's report sat at the center of the maelstrom, a document so unprecedented, so threatening to their worldview, that half the council dismissed it as sensor malfunction or psychological breakdown. Councillor Tharnix stood at his podium, his chitin plates darkened with stress hormones. We cannot allow this humiliation to stand, he declared, his voice resonating through the chamber. Commander Vexthin returns with tales of living planets and merged consciousness. She speaks of ancient humans judging us as if we are children to be scolded. This is unacceptable. What is unacceptable? Countered Councillor Mirianda from across the floor. Is sending more of our people to die for your pride. 2 fleets have entered Sol. 1 vanished without trace. The other returned, changed, frightened. Have you seen the crew reports? Half of them are requesting psychological reconditioning. They cannot unsee what they witnessed. Then they are weak, Tharnix snapped. The Dominion was not built by those who fled from challenges. We have conquered every obstacle through superior force and logic. These humans, if they even exist, are no different. Vex then rose from her seat in the witness gallery. Her movements were slower now, more deliberate, as if the weight of Sol still pressed upon her shoulders. Counselor, with respect, you do not understand what dwells there. This is not a military problem. This is not even a technological problem. This is a test of wisdom, one we are currently failing. Wisdom? Tharnix's vocal membranes vibrated with derision. You speak as if these beings have the right to judge us. We are the Dominion. We answer to no one. Then we will join the others, Vexthin said quietly. The other empires that came before us. The ones humanity remembers even though the galaxy has forgotten them. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The veteran commander's words carried weight. She had never been prone to hysteria or exaggeration. If she believed the threat was existential, perhaps... I call for a vote, Tharnix interrupted, unwilling to let doubt take root. The Dominion will assemble its Grand Armada. 1,000 warships. We will enter Sol in overwhelming force. We will dissect these fortresses. We will extract their technology. And we will prove once and forever that the Dominion stands supreme. All in favor? The chamber divided. The vote was close, closer than any in Dominion history. But pride, as always, tipped the scales. The motion passed. Vexthin closed her eyes. She had tried. History would remember that, at least. Someone had tried. The Grand Armada assembled at the edge of Dominion space, a constellation of warships that represented the accumulated military might of 3,000 cycles of conquest. 1,000 vessels, each armed with planet-cracking weapons. Enough firepower to reduce a solar system to asteroid fields. Admiral Corvex commanded from the super dreadnought Inevitable Conclusion, a ship so massive it required a crew of 50,000. He was the greatest military mind the Dominion had ever produced. 27 successful campaigns, 0 defeats. If anyone could break humanity's mystique, it was him. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Corvex gazed at the star charts. Sol hung there, innocuous and distant. Just another yellow star. Just another conquest. Begin the jump, he commanded. The Dominion does not negotiate. The Dominion does not retreat. The Dominion conquers. 1,000 ships folded space and vanished. They emerged at Sol's edge in perfect formation, a wall of metal and force that stretched across millions of kilometers. Their arrival sent shockwaves through the local space-time, announcing their presence like a war drum. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Earth spoke. But this time, the voice was different. Not whispered, not gentle, not offering choices. This voice resonated with the authority of ages, with the accumulated memory of a species that had witnessed empires rise and fall like tides. Arrogance, the voice said, and every ship's computer translated it into perfect Valor script. We remember you, Dominion. We remember your counselor who called us myths. We remember your admiral who believes force is the answer to all questions. We remember your entire civilization and we find it familiar. Korvax's mandibles clicked nervously. All ships advance. Weapons hot. Target the third planet. The Armada moved forward as one, a tidal wave of destruction. They crossed the orbit of the 8th planet. The 7th. The 6th. And Earth's oceans began to rise, not just in one location, everywhere. The entire planetary hydrosphere lifted into space, defying gravity, defying physics, defying every law the Velar understood. The water formed a sphere around the planet kilometers thick, and within that sphere the fortresses emerged. Not dozens this time. Not hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Every fortress that had ever been built, every archive that had ever been submerged. Every fragment of humanity's collective consciousness rose to meet the challenge. They formed a lattice around Earth, geometric perfections that wove together into a pattern so vast, so complex, that it could only be perceived in fragments lest it shatter mortal comprehension. You came to conquer, the voice said, emanating now from every fortress simultaneously. You came with weapons designed to destroy worlds. You came with certainty, with pride, with the absolute conviction that might makes right. Admiral Korvax watched his tactical displays with growing horror. His weapons locked onto targets, but the targeting computers couldn't maintain locks. The fortresses existed in too many quantum states simultaneously, occupying spaces that shouldn't be possible. We remember your kind, humanity continued. 17 times in the last 10,000 years an empire has come to Sol with fleets and fury. 17 times we offered them a choice, learn humility or face judgment. 16 times they chose wisdom. They returned home, changed their ways, and survived to become the elder species of their eras. The water sphere around Earth began to pulse with light, bioluminescent patterns that formed words, equations, histories. The story of 16 empires that had learned, that had evolved beyond their arrogance. One empire chose pride, the voice said, and now there was sorrow in it, deep ancient sorrow. The Krethnok hierarchy. Perhaps you have found their ruins in your explorations? Magnificent cities all abandoned. They came to Sol with 5,000 ships. They refused to learn. They fired upon us, a pause heavy with implication. We did not fire back. We simply remembered them. Perfectly. Completely. Every individual. Every thought. Every moment of their existence. And when we finished remembering, there was nothing left of them but echoes. They did not die. Death is too simple. They became memory, pure information, stored forever in our archives as a warning to those who come after. Korvax's primary hearts hammered against his thorax. His claws trembled over the firing controls. One command, one word. He could order the attack, unleash planet-cracking weapons, prove the Dominion's might, or he could choose differently. In the council chamber, millions of kilometers away, Counselor Tharnix watched the live transmission with mounting dread. The entire Dominion was watching. Every world, every citizen. They all saw Earth's display of power. Not destructive power, but something far more terrifying. The power of absolute understanding, of perfect memory. The power of beings who had transcended the need to prove themselves. Admiral Korvax, humanity said, addressing him directly, you are the greatest military mind your species has produced. You have never known defeat. But ask yourself, is this a battle you can win? Can you defeat memory itself? Can you kill consciousness that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously? Can you destroy beings who have already evolved beyond the fragility of singular existence? The Admiral's manipulator appendages hovered over the controls. His entire identity was built on victory, on conquest, on the certainty that force solved all problems. But he was also, above all else, logical. We do not wish to remember you, humanity said, and the gentleness had returned to their voice. We do not wish to add the Dominion to our archives of warnings. We wish for you to choose wisdom, to return home, to evolve beyond the pride that has limited you. You have the potential, all species do, but potential means nothing without the humility to grow. Korvax closed his eyes. In his mind, he calculated odds. Victory percentages. Casualty projections. Every scenario ended the same way. The Dominion would cease to exist, preserved perfectly in humanity's memory. A cautionary tale for the next arrogant empire. All ships, he said quietly, his voice carrying across the fleet's communication network. Stand down. Power down weapons. We retreat, Admiral, his second-in-command protested. We cannot. We can, Corvex interrupted. And we will, because I will not be remembered as the fool who destroyed our entire civilization to protect his pride. The Grand Armada turned, 1,000 ships moving as one, retreating from Earth. Not in panicked flight, but in measured withdrawal, the first strategic retreat in Dominion history. As they crossed the heliopause, humanity's voice followed them one final time. We will watch you, Dominion. We will see if you learn, if you evolve, if you choose wisdom over pride, and if someday you return to Sol not as conquerors but as students. We will teach you. We will share what we have learned. We will show you the path beyond arrogance, a pause filled with infinite patience. Until then, we remember you. We remember your potential, and we wait. 3 cycles later, Counselor Tharnix stood before the assembly for the last time. His career was over, ruined by his advocacy for the Sol campaign. But in his final address, he spoke words that no Dominion leader had ever spoken before. I was wrong. The chamber fell silent. I was wrong about humanity. Wrong about Sol. Wrong about what makes an empire truly great. We believed strength meant domination, but we have learned, painfully, that true strength is the wisdom to know when force is not the answer. He gestured to a holographic display showing Earth, peaceful and distant. The humans wait in Sol. They have waited for 10,000 years. They will wait 10,000 more. They do not hate us. They do not fear us. They simply remember us, and they hope we will be wise enough to learn. Tharnix's sensory stalks drooped. I propose we establish the Sol exclusion zone. No Dominion ship will enter that system without unanimous council approval. We will leave humanity in peace, and perhaps someday when we have evolved beyond our arrogance, we will return as they invited us to. As students. The vote was unanimous. In the depths of Earth's Pacific Ocean, the fortresses descended once more. The eyes closed. The lights dimmed. Humanity returned to sleep, but not true sleep. Never true sleep. They watched the galaxy with senses that spanned dimensions. They observed the Dominion's slow transformation, from an empire of conquest to an empire of wisdom. It would take centuries, perhaps millennia, but they had time. They were memory itself. They were patience incarnate, and they would wait as they had always waited for the next empire to challenge them, for the next species to test the depths, for the next judgment to be rendered. Because humanity remembered arrogance, they remembered it perfectly, and they would ensure the galaxy never forgot. In the darkness between stars, Earth dreams, and in those dreams the voices whisper, "We were human once. We became more, but we never forgot what it meant to be mortal, to be proud, to be foolish, to be capable of learning. We remember you, galaxy, all of you, and we wait."